Welcome to Balancing Act, Navigating a New Norm. Today, um, we will be talking about a variety of different things around kind of what we've been going through in the last 7 months, and just balancing everything that we have to deal with, and really the changes that we've gone through. So today, Michelle and I will be hosting, and my name is Stacy Bessinen, and I've been in the wellness field for about 20 years. And everything I do is around wellness. So really allowing people to navigate a way into living their best life. And then I will go ahead and turn it over to Michelle, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, sorry, for whatever reason, my video is not working today. So you will see a pretty picture of me, but my voice will come through. I am the wellness coordinator for St. Francis Regional Medical Center. I've been there for just over 10 years. And I've been working with Change to Chill since the beginning. And I'm very excited to work with Stacy on talking about balancing act and navigating the new norm.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so today our learning objectives are, we are definitely going to get into kind of some physical and emotional signs of stress and how to really cope with that. We'll give you some tips and tools and some strategies. And then we'll assess some individual life balance tasks. And then we'll get into that myth and that talk about multitasking, doing several things at one time, which we feel is kind of an honor that, I can do a lot of different things at once. Just watch me. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, like I mentioned before, we hope you'll get at least 3 life balance strategies or activities to implement in your own life to be able to navigate through this new norm, through these changes, and then find a life balance for yourself. So let's do a little chat. So in your chat box, if you could type a couple of words and what really makes you feel unbalanced. I know for me, sometimes it's just trying to figure out how to work from home and do different things that I need to do with my kids and work. So feel free to add a couple of things, and Michelle will read through those, and we'll kind of chat a little bit about them.
Yeah, well, I myself, I put in video not working when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to. Conflict, uncertainty, change.
Yeah, definitely. So all of those things. And Michelle, we can see you now. So welcome. It's great to see your lovely face. And yeah, definitely. So all those things, those change and conflict and something not working can definitely make you feel unbalanced. So you can feel that stress in yourself. And I see there are a few more chats that are coming through. What else is being said?
Working from home and overwhelming schedules, too many meetings and not enough time, balance between school, internships, new babies, trying to keep up cooking and cleaning. I get that. Not feeling good enough, too many emails, too much information, social media, and news overload. Helping others with their emotions and not making time for my own. These are all excellent. These are all things that pull us out of balance.
Oh gosh, yes, definitely. So thank you all for sharing. And yeah, I mean, it's almost a little bit overwhelming hearing all that. And the reason why is because I felt all those as well. We're all human trying to figure all this out. And sometimes it would be nice to just leave things aside and be able to just focus on what we have right in front of us. And there's just so much going on. So let's kind of go through on how we can navigate this change and these differences. So really there's a few different questions. And how do we balance life in the midst of change? That can be really, really tough. And we'll discuss some things on what that even means. And why is change so stressful? Our brains are really wired for to be able to have the calmness of doing the same thing every day and having a routine, and our brains really, really like that. And so once that gets out of whack, our routine gets out of whack, the brain definitely triggers like, what do I do now? And this isn't how I normally do things. So it's stressful. And then navigating change around now we have this new normal. What does new normal mean? And how do we deal with that? So we'll kind of cover a few of these things and have some time to reflect on them as well. So Michelle is going to talk us through the stress response and how that can affect us.
So stress is a normal physical response, and we all encounter stress. You can think back even probably in the last hour of the things that cause stress, and a lot of the things that are pulling us, that you wrote, that are pulling you from balance, are those things that are stressful to you as well. And we all have a stress response, but the good thing is we all have a relaxation response as well. So our body, when it goes into stress, the things on that left-hand side in the red are the things that happen to us physiologically. You know, cortisol levels increase and pupils dilate, heart rate increases, breathing becomes more difficult, digestion slows, all of those things happen. But there's also a relaxation response that counters each of those. And we can train ourselves to be able to have the tools and techniques to go into that relaxation response. Because while the stress response is there, and we all have that, and we all react to stress, living in the stress response for too long takes away from our ability to get to and to activate the relaxation response. So if we can go to the next slide. The first thing about countering stress is recognizing when you are stressed. And if you look through all of these symptoms, there's upset stomach and trouble breathing, trouble concentrating, change in sleep habits. Each of those on its own could be because of stress, or it could be because of something else. So taking a moment when you have one of those symptoms and saying, is this in reaction to what's going on, a stressor that I've encountered? Or is it with an upset stomach, is it because I haven't eaten in the day? And then taking notice and maybe even tracking those. Because the first way to start that relaxation response is by knowing when to step in to use the technique to counter the stress. Go ahead. So stress matters. Stress and anxiety lead to more feelings of anger and poor sleep and an overall decrease in daily life performances. The International Journal of Clinical Psychology did a study, and it shows that daily stressors play a significant role in affecting our mental health. So knowing when we need to counter the stress and even taking a pause in our day will help us become more balanced. So I have an analogy of a cell phone. So if you, or a smartphone basically. So if you go to your smartphone and opened it up and notice how many apps you have running in the background. On any given moment, I have 1 to 5 to even more sometimes because I forget to close out those apps. I have a teenage son and he will tell me over and over again, you have to close out the apps, Mom, because when you close out the apps, it saves your battery and the life of the phone lasts longer before you have to recharge. So if you think of that the same, if you think of that as you and your life dealing with stress, when a stressor comes along, if we leave it open and leave it hanging and let it slide because we don't have time to deal with that right now, and then go on and have those apps or those stressors build up, by the end of the day, you're exhausted. And when you're exhausted, then you don't sleep very well. And then when you don't sleep very well, then you start the next day in a deficit. So if we can close down those apps or close down those stressors when they come, that will help lead us to a more balanced life. What? So stress is never going away. So between stimulus and response, there's space. And in this space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So remember, there are 2 things in life that you can control: how you interpret something and how you respond to something. When you interpret and respond in the midst of stress, it becomes cloudy and it's harder to view your options. When you take a step back and are able to see a little more clearly, then you're able to interpret and respond and hopefully draw in more of the relaxation response. So there is a positive side of stress. Stress helps us recognize when we need to do something about it. So think about now a stressor that might have come to, you might have encountered already today. And think about what is the positive motivation behind that stress. And then think about why that matters, why the stress matters. Because if you can't think of a positive motivation behind the stress, then what you interpret and how you respond to it will will be different than if it's a negative motivation. So when you embrace stress, you can transfer fear into courage, isolation into connection, and suffering into meaning.
Yeah, I mean, that, Michelle, is definitely a good point. I mean, we look at, the negative and positive side of stress all the time, and we definitely need that acute stress response for survival. I mean, that's, it's very important for us to be able to react to things when it comes to survival. And like if you're walking down the sidewalk and you step into the road and a car is coming, you need that stress response to be able to jump back and to have that time for survival. If you have to tell your body, okay, step back, it'll be too late. So we definitely need that fight or flight part of our body. We just, like you said, don't need it to be firing all the time, and that chronic stress can definitely get to us. So we like to look at that positive side of stress and that negative side of stress. And then sometimes what happens is we're so overwhelmed that we feel like we need to do so many different things at one time. We need to do so many different tasks. And that's what we call multitasking. And the definition is dealing with more than one task at the same time. We think that we can do this and feel okay, but really what it is attention wise, like what our brain can handle is only one thing at a time. So multitasking really is not possible. It's what we call, our brain is focused on one thing, and then you switch to another thing, and then you switch to another thing. And so what I like to take the example of driving a car. When we're really focused on driving our car, using all of our senses, we're seeing what's going on, we're feeling the road, we kind of know what to expect, and we know when something goes wrong. If our car starts to slide a little bit, but we're paying attention, we right ourselves, and we're okay, and we're feeling good and confident. But if we're eating or we're listening to a talk show and we're really focused on what they're saying, then what happens is our brains will go from paying attention to the road and then paying attention to what's being said on the radio, and our focus is not on the road anymore. So we call this continuous partial attention. Now, if we're also eating something or texting or talking on the phone, all of those things, our mind will go from one to another to another to another. So we're never fully focused on the road like we need to be. And so you can think about that if you're doing housework and you're doing something else, and if you're doing something else, it can that example can lead to any part of our life. So this fragmented approach to life can lead to stress and anxiety, and so our ultimate goal today is really to be able to practice that mindfulness as a tip. So if you're driving, the best thing you can do for your brain and for yourself is to really focus on that driving, or a work project, or washing dishes, or brushing your teeth. So anytime and any opportunity that you have, you can practice that mindfulness and really help your brain be in that moment. And so what mindfulness is the act of bringing that awareness to the present moment by acknowledging and accepting the thoughts, feelings, and sensations in the body just as they are. No judgment, just being in that moment. So what I want you to do after this talk and beyond in the next few days, just notice when you're multitasking or feeling like you're in that continuous partial awareness, and where your brain is in attention to a variety of different things. And then I want you to kind of practice mindfulness in that moment. Like if you're washing dishes, just bring all your senses to that moment and be in that moment with that one task on your mind. Feel the water, the temperature of the water, the smell of the detergent, the noticing how clean the dishes are getting. Just be in that one moment and see how you feel. And if you notice your mind wander to a different task that you have to do, it's okay, no judgment. Just bring yourself back right to your task at hand, if that's washing dishes or brushing your teeth or whatever that is. So that's just kind of some homework for you in the next couple of days. So there has been a lot of change going on and in the last couple of months. And so we want to look at how we can cope with that change. And so here's a few tips. So kind of some self-care as it relates to not only helping yourself, but how to cope with different things. So the first thing is to take a moment of awareness. If you're feeling really stressed, say it. So to really name that stressor is really to tame that stressor. So I am stressed because. So just by saying I am stressed, you're telling yourself and you're telling your body, yes, I'm listening, I'm hearing you. I want to deal with this, or I'm just aware of it. And then say because. I'm stressed because my video is not working. Fill in the blank. And so what that can do is that can really put your mind at ease and say, okay, well, what can I do about this? And then focus on what you can do and what you can control. Really, there are no failures, there's only learning. So what is the lesson that has been learned and how can you move forward? And really focusing on what you can control really helps the brain out, because there's so much that we can't control. And then that connecting with family and our friends is so very important. We as humans are social beings, so we need that connection. So checking in on others and helping others really equals joy for yourself. And we feel good when we can help others. And remembering to share your struggles and allowing others to help you as well. If you know that helping others brings joy to you, then allowing others to help you can kind of spread that joy, and it can help others feel joyful as well. Another tip is take on a new challenge. So Michelle is going to be talking about our values in just a few moments, but when we are really focused on looking at what some of our values and purposes are and taking a new challenge, that can really fill our cup, and that can really fill our heart and our purpose and our mind with, with really living our best life. So if there's a hobby that you've always enjoyed doing that you've gotten away from, or maybe it's something new that you want to learn, connect to your values, taking some risks, do something different. And as Michelle goes through those values in a few minutes, maybe there's some things that you might have some aha moments. And then another thing to cope with change is really to celebrate change. So a lot of things have happened in the last few months. So just kind of reflecting, taking time to reflect on what happened and how you coped. Us as humans, we are very resilient, and we don't give ourselves very much credit for that, but we really are resilient. And so what did you learn? When we kind of reflect and take that time, we'll just give ourselves some kudos and believe and know that we are ready for the next guaranteed life change. And that's really something to celebrate. And then let go of control, like I had mentioned earlier. We really are resilient in times of change, and to remember that, and to keep on focusing on what we can do.
So values. Values is a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's determination of what's important in life. Values can help you bring things that you believe that are most important. They help you to determine what your life priorities are. They can influence decision making, and they can build strong and loving boundaries for self-care. So there are different kinds of values. There's individual values, those that are specific to your needs, to what your life situations are, the principles that you live by and what you consider important for your self-interest. So when you think about that, some may include like enthusiasm, creativity, humility, and personal fulfillment, but some of these are just options, or just may include. whatever your individual values are not set in stone either. They can change. And as we work through the values here, I hope that you see the benefit of reevaluating and re-looking at your values, maybe daily, weekly, whatever works for you, because they will change, and it does depend on your situation around you. To bring balance in is to bring balance with your values. So then there's also relationship values, reflecting how you relate to other people in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers, the people you meet on the street. Those are all relationship values. And as you can see, some of the value words for that might be openness, trust, generosity, and caring. There's also organizational values, where you work or where you, what your organization shows up and operates in the world. And whether it's in your work environment or where you volunteer, or maybe even a kid's sports team, that could be an organizational value. And so you have different values that go with that, and may include financial growth, teamwork, productivity, and strategic alliances. And then there's societal values, reflect how you or your organization relates to society. You can think about how you interact with what's going on around you in your spiritual and political and emotional and spiritual, political, and business dealings that you have throughout your day. And those include future generations, environmental awareness, ecology, and sustainability. But the benefits of having any of those values is that values can help you find your purpose. They can help you react in difficult situations. They can help you make decisions and clear out clutter. They can help you develop a sense of self and increase your self-confidence. And they can help increase your overall sense of happiness. Decision-making becomes easier when you have values. Your life can become simpler, becomes less stressful, and your values can inspire better health habits, and they can rev up your willpower to persist at difficult tasks. Values can also help you act more assertively and can help you communicate with more compassion. So now what you see there is a values list. So core values are a description of your character, how you behave and what you like. They hold strong no matter what, especially in times of stress and temptation. Core values help you make decisions that will hold true to your most inner self. So this list is not exhaustive by any means. And as you can see at the end of the list, it says others. These are just some words to think about. And so what I'd like you to do now is to look at this list of core values. Oh, could we go back to that slide, please? Thank you. Look at this list of core values. And I'd like you to just choose one or two right now. What are important values to you right now? And if you have a piece of paper, feel free to write it down, because I'm going to add some other thoughts to it. But if you don't, just think about them in your head and pick one or two on that list. Now we can go ahead and go. So as you're looking, or as you're picking those words and you put them down, identify, reflect on the words that you picked. So maybe even when you write down next to it the behaviors that support these values, or why you chose those values. Maybe it's around a circumstance that happened, and so that's why that value is important right now. Or maybe it's around a situation that has happened in the past, or something that you're thinking about in the future. Think about who supports your efforts to put these values into practice. And then think about why these values generate in your life. What do they generate in your life? Why are they important to you? And again, this is just a practice to connect with what is important to us. So as you go through this on each value, you could do more than one or two when you're doing this practice. But right now for that, you're going to do a little litmus test with it. So if I was to ask you, would you sacrifice the values you wrote down for $1 million? Would you? Or would you hold true to those values if you were under a lot of stress? Do you think those values will be the same values you have in 25 years? And if for some reason the value caused you a competitive disadvantage in life, would they still be your values? And those are just questions to ask yourself, to reevaluate, to see where you are at with your values. And again, they change with the circumstances as you go through life. So in our daily life, we sometimes encounter difficult situations, from receiving negative feedback at work to being excluded in a social situation. In these moments, it's difficult to stay clear-headed and open-minded. And sometimes it's hard to stay in control. We may get defensive, we may act out, we deprive ourselves of constructive lessons and harming our relationships with others. Researchers have found that writing about our most important values can help us experience less stress, be less defensive, and more open to information, and make healthier choices in these situations. So if we go to the next slide, how do you incorporate those values into your ordinary situations? Well, one way is to bring up your values in a conversation with your friends, your family, or your coworkers. Maybe it's around the dinner table with your family and bringing up what's important to you today. By talking about your values, then you can expand on that. At the end of the day, for a few days, compare your list of core values with how you actually acted. Maybe on today, courage was one of them, and tomorrow's kindness. If kindness is your value, how do you show kindness during the day? Use what you learn to change your behaviors to align with your values. Need to face a stressful event or solve a difficult problem? Maybe that's a time to pause in the midst of that stressful event or difficult problem, taking a step back and writing down what's important to you, or how it reacts with one of your values will give you that pause. The ability then to look back at or look again at the difficult problem or situation and maybe see it more clearly. And about goals. Think about when you set a goal for yourself. Ask yourself why. Why is it important to you? Why is it important at this time? What is the why? Finding the why behind the value will help you gain access to willpower and determination. It will also help guide you in how you react and utilize your values throughout your day and towards that specific goal. So also, whoops. Oh, go ahead. So on the Change to Chill website, there is a value circle chart that we have, and it's a PDF. And this is a great way to utilize this in practice. Stacey, are we going to do this right now, or?
No, this is just available on the website. It's a really good tool to use. We have a variety of different worksheets to use, and so this is just one of them.
Perfect. Yep. And then in this worksheet, it takes that circle with the pie charts, and you write down the 6 values, 6 things that are important to you, 6 things that are very important in your day. And then on the blank circle, you get to make your pie pieces for each of those values as to how much time and energy you spend with it. And it's a good way to help guide you and notice where our energies are being spent, because pulling all of our energies into one value definitely can pull us out of balance. So there's some helpful tips to incorporating our values into self-care. And some of those include that you do not need to do everything today, that it's okay to have work-life balance, that it's okay to delegate and break up projects into smaller chunks. And remembering the why you started. Anytime you start to feel overwhelmed with those feelings, to come back to the why. It's okay to give into emotions as well. Acknowledgement is key. So one thing right now is that watching the news can be traumatic for people. It can pull you out of balance. So what does the news do that correlates with your values? How do you step aside? And so maybe your value is compassion. Well, maybe it's giving a family member a hug, or maybe it's reaching out and saying through a text, hey, I miss seeing you in person. It's something, taking your values with whatever is causing the stress and then incorporating your resilience and growing that in resilience. But the most important self-care tip that I can give you about values is to let go of perfection. That remember that failing is learning. And that as you go through and encounter stresses in your life, you're going to make mistakes with it. And you'll come back to your values and you learn from that and you grow from that. So go ahead and go to that next slide.
Sure.
So in the section under resiliency, there is a life balance section, and I'm going to turn this over to you, Stacy. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and value work. I mean, we, if you're kind of thinking like, oh man, I haven't had a chance to figure out my values yet, it can take a while to not only reflect on what your values are, but kind of looking in your past and your current situation and everything, and how those values have, once you figured it out, how those values have played a role in every reaction that you've ever made in your life. And so your time for reflection is much longer than this presentation. So so there's definitely a lot of different things that you can do around this, and definitely take the time to do it. It is well worth it. And like Michelle had said, on our website under resiliency here, we have some other ways that you can determine your life balance, such as that values circle worksheet. And after this, we'll be sending an email out with a survey and then some other resources. So if you're looking for that values list, we can send that along as well. So there's a variety of different things on the website. And so one of the questions we get a lot is, I'm having such a hard time kind of balancing out the work from home, the distance learning. How do I kind of create that new normal at home? And so here's some tips. So your morning routine, you just, one of the best things to do is just to establish a clear routine in the morning. Kind of keep that the same that you always had. Wake up the same each day, and that is, waking up the same each day, whether it's on a weekend, a work day, school day, a holiday. That's really, really good for your brain and really good for your overall health and wellness, to kind of maintain that routine and that schedule. Get ready and get dressed like you're out to, you're ready to tackle the day. You'll feel better, you'll feel ready. Definitely to organize your space. We talk a lot about staying organized, staying tidy, and just knowing that you can keep everything that you want to keep and still make the space work for you. So that's the most important thing, is keep some clear boundaries between work and school and home and space and all of that, so that when you're ready to work, or when you're ready to work on that schoolwork, that you can focus on it and everything is right there for you. And really making that space work for you, like I just mentioned, and then make it count. Be conscious of how you are using your time. Give yourself some grace and make sure that you take the breaks between your classes or work projects or whatever you're doing. It's actually a law that when you work an 8-hour day, you need to take a 30-minute lunch and 2 15-minute breaks. And that's so important all the time. Taking those breaks, going for a little walk or stretching, or making sure that you're taking that time to eat and mindfully eat, that you're nourishing your body. So really making those times count. And that can also help you be more productive while you're working on your projects or your classes. So we are going to take a little bit of time to do some experiential work around just being mindful and setting that intention. So what I want you to do is, if you can, put your feet flat on the floor, maybe hands right in your lap, get into a comfortable position here. I want you to do is take a couple of deep breaths. Fill your belly first, and then your lungs, and all the way up to your chin. And exhale fully. Take one more deep breath in. And as you're breathing in, I want your shoulders to come up as you're filling those lungs. And then as you exhale, shoulders back and down. And just settle into your space. Just feel the chair beneath you, supporting you and your body. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes if you have not already. And just focus on that breath, maybe the temperature of the air as it enters your nose, the temperature of the air as it leaves your body. And just breathe normally, just noticing the flow of air in and out. Now, as you're just breathing, just notice any thoughts or sensations, feelings as they come and go. Kind of just notice them, no judgment. You have a thought that comes in, just notice it, and then bring your attention back to your breath. Notice how your mind is working. Our mind is a thought generator. It's meant to think. So notice if your thoughts come and go and you go from thought to thought and to thought, kind of like a monkey going from branch to branch to branch. That's normal. That's how our mind, that's how sometimes our mind thinks. We have a lot on our mind and go from thought to thought. Or notice if your mind grabs onto a thought, kind of like we call that puppy syndrome, where it grabs onto a thought and carries it over a hill and gets really curious about it. And so much so that it builds a story around it, that maybe that story eventually can affect how your body feels. So just notice these things about how our brain and how our mind works. And if you have a thought that kind of pulls you away, or you go from thought to thought, or you build a story around a thought, go ahead and notice yourself doing that and then bring yourself back to your breath. Now, as you're noticing how your mind is working, you might notice that thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, feelings come and go. There's no need to grasp onto anything. You can let things go. You can bring your thoughts back to your breath and focus on that single point. You can also change your mindfulness work to either breath work or setting an intention for your day or for a project or for a moment. And so when you do that, you can set your intention to use some powerful words in what you need to hear during that moment. Like if you have a big project coming up, you can say, I am capable, I am worthy, I'm going to have a good day, or I'm very creative. Whatever you need to hear for yourself for your next step and for your day. You can even take a deep breath, and on the deep breath in, you can say, I am. And then on your exhale, you can use whatever word you need to hear for yourself. And just notice yourself back on your chair, feeling the support from your chair. Taking one more deep breath in. And as you exhale, wiggling your fingers and your toes, opening your eyes if they're closed. Mindfulness work can be that easy. Intention work can be that easy. And just notice how you're feeling. Good job, everybody. If you'd like to write in the chat on how you feel free to do that. Good. And next week, we will be talking about Change Your Perspective, a mental remix. We'll be talking about brain mapping. And so that is at noon again next Thursday. So feel free to join us. Feel free to sign up for our e-newsletter. And so all you would need to do is go to changeyourchill.org and put in your email address here and hit the subscribe button, and you'll receive our email with our newsletter. And then let us know what you think. So after this presentation, we'll be sending you a email with a SurveyMonkey link. Please feel free to write some things in there and go to the website, changeyourchill.org. A lot of these presentations, we will put the presentation on the website under videos. So you can review this video again, or feel free to email us if you have any questions or comments. Our email is there, and we'll also add that to our the upcoming email. Now, Michelle, was there any comments in the chat?
Nope, just there is the link to this visit the SurveyMonkey is in the chat, but you also will receive it via email. So
okay, wonderful. Yes, thank you. Are there any questions as we go forward? Actually, Michelle and I will stay on for a few minutes, and feel free to stay on and we can answer any questions. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you.